So welcome everyone. My name is Brian Becker and I'm the Director of Small Business Outreach at the Sioka Center for Principal Entrepreneurship at Catholic U. We are thrilled tonight to have Furard Tate as our guest for the program Taking Your Business Temperature. I think that there have been a lot of things happen in the last few months. Many of it has affected small businesses specifically, but also the fabric of our city as a whole. And I can't think of a better person to talk to at this time than Tate. We had first met actually at a Think Local First event a couple years ago and connected immediately on our love of food and those who provide the food and source the food and everything else in our fine city. And Tate has been extremely involved in preserving that food culture, has been very involved with legacy businesses and supporting entrepreneurs, but then also educating the next generation in terms of hospitality skills, job preparation, and really helping bridge the gap in our city. So I'll let Tate tell you a little bit more about himself and his background. But what we really hope for tonight is that we have a very fluid and rich conversation. I really looked at Tate and others who I see popping up on the call here as my guiding influences in terms of the types of programming that we provide in the Sioka Center. And we try to stay pretty current in terms of what kinds of challenges you are facing in particular, or what kind of challenges you may have heard as you operate within your space, whether it is as a business owner or as a technical assistance provider. So what we'll do just as kind of a point of reference, if you have a question for me or Tate, please just go ahead and put it in the chat and we will try to get to the questions as they come in. But we really will try to keep it as conversational as we can so that everybody can be seen and be heard and hopefully benefit from the wealth of knowledge that Tate brings to the table. Quickly before we get into that, just give you an overview for anyone who might be new to us. The Sioka Center is a center within the Bush School of Business at Catholic University. Our basic idea, in addition to some of the more scholarly efforts, is to provide a real world experience for our business students. So students who are interested in entrepreneurship or even business in general, we said, wouldn't it be neat if we could give them living case studies as opposed to just the kind of standard mix of business case studies you might receive somewhere else. And in turn, business owners could benefit from students working on their projects in real time. So it's really been a labor of love and a great exchange of ideas and complementary skill sets. In addition to the direct student work, we also tend to have monthly programming for business owners. So we'll bring in speakers like Tate or some of the others who we've had throughout the last couple months to talk about their experience and how they might be helpful and help point people in the right direction in terms of the resources available if it doesn't happen to be within the center. We've obviously accelerated our programming in the last few months to respond to the needs that are very real and obvious that we've all been facing since March. We have had newsletters go out more often, pointing people to resources, and we had gatherings like this more often, just so we can all get together and maintain momentum despite the distance challenges. In a normal week, I don't even know how many meetings in person. I tend to be going from coffee shop to coffee shop and meeting with friends. So it's been hard on me, and this has been something I look forward to every Monday. So welcome everyone, and welcome Furard Tate, tonight's speaker for the Sioka Center Happy Hour. Tate, just to get started here, if you could just tell us a little bit about what we're hearing and what you're seeing over the last few weeks. I think that our city has endured another stress test in terms of what businesses can endure and how they can rebuild, but all of our relationships too. I think that the tension, I think, certainly reached a fever pitch and now seems to be we're on the backside of it a little bit. But what are you hearing and what are people saying and thinking as you make your rounds?
Well, first I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with you again and your team and all the persons who have decided to listen for a moment. I hope you have questions. It is always a pleasure to be in your company. I think one of the things that you mentioned briefly, but is so important, in this stress test that the city has been in, it is definitely test relationships. Relationships matters. And in getting to work with you, it started because of the relationships. People that you know saying that you guys should know each other. And so moving into what I'm hearing from our customers and from our business owners got hit, and they're now beginning to clearly realize the importance of not just having a loyalty strategy or shotgun marketing strategies, but to really hone in to letting the customer understand who the business person, the owner is, and how that relationship matters. You know, you purchasing my product, be it coming to my restaurant or, you know, my clothing service or whatever the case may be. We have to understand that in hard times like this, it will bring you closer to the people that matter to you most. So family, friends, and customers that should also fall into that same strategy, that same fabric, you know?
Yeah, I think that a lot of what I'm hearing and even what I've experienced myself is that I've worked through it, no doubt, but I feel like even with family and with friends and within your own household and of course the customer relationships, it's just been a tough time, you know, and I think that as always, to lead with empathy and to try your best to understand where people are coming from. For one thing, that's good business practice because that's going to dictate how you react with your customers. But I think that just in general, never fully knowing everyone's full story and just trying to be open to that, I think has been helpful. And I think that, you know, if you had told us back in 3 months ago that we'd be still hanging out virtually, I'm not sure we would have believed you. But what new challenges do you think have presented themselves, say, in the last 30 days that might have been different from the ones the previous 30 or the 30 before that?
That the first thing is that the new normal is, we're still identifying what that new normal is, okay? That we're not going to go back to the way things used to be. And so people have to be comfortable with understanding that we are all pivoting and utilizing the technology, but utilizing simple structures like a lean canvas or simple structures like going back to why you got into business and clearly identifying what is your customer. Who is that individual that you are serving? You're answering their problems. So this is a time with my clients is I'm really getting them to kind of go back and not just do a SWOT analysis, but get them to understand that they have a unique proposition that they can offer people who need their service. And in doing that, how do we identify the new systems in reaching that customer? Is it, you know, I'm making Zoom calls like doctors' offices are doing now? Or am I teaching customers about the service that I have, the unique proposition that I'm offering so that I have a more intelligent customer, but also I have a customer that is more conscious about my service as well as about why I started the business. So I started with my clients, getting them to really take a deep dive in identifying, once again, why they got into business. Because most of them realized from the start that they got into business not just to make a profit. Profitability is real. But they got into business because they clearly understood that they had a product or service that made them feel a certain way as they offered it to their unique client. And so in strengthening their own self-concept, with all of us, our businesses, our individual, we have to re-strengthen our self-concept, which gives us self-confidence in taking our business to the next level. Because a lot of times, as a business owner, you're going to get hit. But if you remember why I got into business, if you and your customers remember the unique proposition that you're offering them, it helps you to find your footing again. You're like, oh, okay, all right, this is why I started this journey. And this is just part of the journey. The journey is not over. Yes, who are my first early adopters? Who are my core customers? Who are my core resources? Who are the people that I can literally talk to and lean on? Who are my advisors? And then kind of pivot to my next level of greatness. I see so many businesses saying, wow, I wish I would have thought about talking to my customers this way, prior to March. and literally having the ability to text my customers or the ability to have Zoom conversations with my customers. So in doing this, people who have got through the shock and awe that we hear are now realizing that business will continue. And it's going to continue on an even higher level, because we're going to have to offer a higher quality service to that core group of customers that we have identified that fit within our quote unquote, demographics or our model of what our ideal customer is.
Yeah, and I think that something you said really resonated. Well, a couple of things you said. First, we've been hearing a lot more about lean canvases and SWOT analyses and those kinds of things. We talk about it all the time anyway, but it seems like business owners are in some ways just coming back to basics. That this is not a rewriting of a 30-page business plan. It is, okay, let me look at a business model canvas. Let me figure out exactly who my customers are. How am I going to reach them? That may have changed. What products, what value am I offering to them? And the other thing is, it's in some ways it can be difficult to find the time to do these kinds of things, these kind of maintenance tasks, to make sure that the machine is running smoothly. Now it's essential. The folks that simply are trying to ignore what's happening, I think, are not going to fare very well.
Right.
The thought that you can shut the machine down and then we're going to wait this thing out and fire it back up, I don't think seems to be tenable either in most cases. But how can you adjust your offerings to your customers in a way that's going to be real to them now? You marry that with the interesting phenomenon that everyone is generally available. It's kind of weird to think that, let's say that you have one target strategic advisor that you had struggled for 6 months to get in front of, and they could be halfway across the world under normal situations or, presenting at conferences or whatever. You kind of have a chance to meet with anyone now. It's going to look like this, unfortunately. Yeah. But I think there's a way in which some people have become more available as opposed to less, and you can do a little bit more of a focus on that, on the maintenance of your machine, if that makes sense. What kind of, go ahead.
So one of the things so after I get my clients to clearly go within and identify the why again, identify your mission, and begin to look at the unique proposition, because we do this in that lean, right? But then we have to be clearly aware of the business environment that we're in. The environment has changed. What you used to do 3 months ago is going to be totally different 6 months coming forward. You and I were talking about, my daughter going to college this year is totally different, right? So we have to, as business owners, to be aware of in the environment in which we do business, and what we also have to be conscious of the technology that will allow us to provide a higher level of service to our customer. Our customer needs to have an ease, not only to pay us, but have an ease to utilize the technology or utilize the service that we're trying to bring to the marketplace. So we want people, whatever your business environment is, clearly start local. Well, one of the catering companies were like, hold on, think about your reach. So where before you might only deliver, to DMV, but now because of technology, you have the postal service, you can package a certain way. Your restaurants, okay, people are not going to get in their car and maybe drive the 3 hours or the 2 hours, but yet you have people who will walk to your restaurant if you connect with those individuals and give them a unique proposition when they come into your door that this is where they're supposed to be. So clearly take time to look at your business environment that you're in and begin to identify how do you pivot and dominate that space that you're in.
That makes sense. If we stick to the kind of takeout question for a second, a couple folks I've been speaking with recently said that they almost started getting used to what their numbers look like on the takeout front. Mm-hmm. But then now that phase one has happened, they've seen a reduction in that, because it's almost as if, and this hasn't been proven yet, but it's almost as if there's a finite amount of customers that are willing to do either. Yes. And now they have more options in terms of in-person dining. Could you say a couple words about that and kind of what you're hearing and what you're thinking?
So in the awareness part of this strategy, you have from the restaurant perspective, you have a core customer base that if you're not educating that customer why your burger or your ethnic food or your dining experience is not, if you got to clearly get them to understand the uniqueness about that and connect it to them, to their buying decision. And that might happen over a Zoom with your customers. It might happen over, loyalty strategies where you're giving discounts. It might happen out through adding some more food options to your menu. But if you don't stop and begin to ask yourself, why are my core customers, and how do I add more value to them? You're going to begin to see those numbers, because they have more options, go down. This is the time for you to zero in. And then if that customer says, yes, I agree, I love it, that customer will begin to introduce you to more persons who have the same buying decision, the same desire. Because it's nothing like eating with a friend. Even if I go to a restaurant and it's good, I'm gonna tell at least 3 to 4 people. And if it's easy to get to the food, then that's gonna be another opportunity for you to have more customers that are just like your core customer base.
Yep, I think that definitely makes sense. One other issue we've talked about a lot over the years now, that again, the stress tests have occurred, and now I think that the landscape is a little different, is access to capital. We've partnered on a couple of events. You helped me recruit some folks for the Capital Access Expo that we did in February with CSLBD. And I'm thinking back on the programming from that day and what was said really right before all of this hit. It was February 23rd.
Yes.
How have you seen the existing challenges in terms of capital access change as a result of what's happened between now and then?
Okay, so I've had the unique pleasure of interviewing. I have a radio show with on WOL, Be Informed, with Marshall Heights Development Corporation, and we had the pleasure of interviewing the director, Antonio Doss. And it was amazing because if you think of the
DSPA.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you think of lack, you'll find it. If you think of lack, you'll find it. So if you think of the opportunities that are out here, and they are out here, you have to look for them, okay? I'm not going to say that there's a golden tree and they're going to pull all the resources. This city has more access to capital and more resources than the average city of its size and scope, right? So I do want us to first, again, after you begin to look at your business environment, I clearly, from the first step, go within, identify what your needs really are, because you don't want to borrow too much and you don't want to wait and think that there's no help there. Then you can make a better, clear ask of what it truly do you need to not only pivot your business or sustain your business, but get to your next level. So I do want to say, not only is there money out here, but their resources and their connections can be even more valuable than the dollar amount that you might borrow to sustain yourself. Look for not only cash opportunities, but look for opportunities to partner and to collaborate. Because your secret might be, okay, I didn't need this huge brick and mortar, but I have it. So how do I collaborate and bring 4 more people into my kitchen space? And now I have a new revenue stream that will allow me to sustain myself without going and to actually get a bank loan. Or how do I look at offering some other products? I do pies, but I know someone who does a mean barbecue. So how do I begin to pair relationships up with other businesses that can sometimes be just as good as cash? And I also want to say this. So after we totally get into the right mindset, and then we look at the business environment, we have to make sure we have the operational procedures that will allow us to streamline systems that can help us to measure, are we doing good? Or do we need to, or we're not doing good? You have to have operational procedures that will allow you to effectively do your business, even if you're not physically there. That will help you also save money, save time, and make sure that you have customers that are getting exactly what they're paying for when they pay for it, because the system is set up. I hope I answered.
No, you did. I think it's related to your relationship comment from a few minutes ago. It's extremely difficult, and I think people learn this the hard way, to establish banking relationships amidst a crisis.
Yes.
It's not happening. And now the underbanked and the non-banked, I think that is a whole separate conversation.
It is.
And my hope of hopes is that the attention that is on the small business space right now, hopefully will alleviate some of that moving forward. But for the present, it was very difficult for people all of a sudden to say, well, wait a minute, like I don't have a relationship with Bank of America or TD or whoever, but I want them to now process this like thinly guided SBA program that is super complicated and everybody doesn't really know what to do with. I'm not defending the banks right now and the way things rolled out necessarily, but you can at least understand conceptually how they had 10,000 applications come through and they focused on the 2,000 of people that they had a relationship with because they had all the prior years financials and all the rest. I think that and a lot of the work that I know you've done is preparing businesses to have a successful banking relationship and to be kind of credit worthy, so that if and when they are seeking additional funding, that they have all their ducks in a row, as opposed to deciding one day that, hey, we're going to open that second location, or we're going to invest in machinery, or we need to draw from our line of credit. It's a process, and unfortunately, it takes a while to do all that stuff.
Yeah, we did a Zoom. So I also work with life assets, and I've had the unique pleasure of helping people apply. And now I'm actually helping, making sure those who did receive the money is actually getting their money. And what I'm having is on both ends, there were a lot of people who needed it, but wasn't structured, meaning that they did not have the paperwork to be able to apply. So it wasn't anything other than, as a business owner, we need to do business. And in part of doing business, your structure is so important. And then your procedures, your structure, your procedures, all of that. So in case of emergencies, some people didn't even have proper insurance. Some people didn't even have letters of good standing. Some people didn't even have, real occupancy to show that they are a DC-based business. So all of this it was an opportunity to, and it tested, unfortunately, a lot of businesses, and it broke a lot of them. But those of them and those of us who truly believe that they're in business on purpose, and they understand that we're going to have ups and downs, brush yourself off, get back to where you are. You don't have to go back to the beginning, but get back to where you are and know that that's a new beginning. And a lot of us have that new beginning to get us to our new level of greatness. So I'm looking forward to, working with people and really helping people to realize that it isn't over.
So if it is over, I know, because we were talking about the volume of phone calls you've been getting since this whole thing started, and how, because you have such a huge heart and such a big brain, you're able to take on all these different people's problems.
Yeah, okay.
I think that you may have earned a true proper happy hour more than anyone in town. But how have you dealt with the conversations? I know we've had a few in the center too, where it doesn't make sense, where somebody is in business and the stress test has been issued and the cracks only got bigger. How are you helping people navigate that side of the equation? Because I'm an eternal optimist too. I can handle the rosier picture much easier. How have you helped people understand that, look, this isn't personal? Yes, in many cases, your identity and your business are often intertwined. But given what the odds are right now, no, this is not a mark on your character or your work ethic if your business is insolvable right now. How are you handling some of those conversations? Okay.
So I want to do this is this remind that the relationships, not only your banking relationship, not only the relationship with your customers, but with your personal relationship with yourself. I started with saying we have to, I want our business persons, whoever you are, to go within yourself. And I first identify where you are personally with your desire to continue to do business. Don't do business just because, I started and I got to continue, or because, first ask yourself, do I really want to continue to do this? And that's where that whole SWOT analysis, that whole strengths and weaknesses and why you got into it, and reconfirming your mission, reconfirming your purpose, why you got into this. You have to do that before you try to convince a customer to buy your service. Because if you don't have the confidence or the self concept to deliver a product, your offering is going to fall. Because I mean, imagine me saying, "Let me help you," but I'm reaching my hand out to help you get to your next level, and I'm shaky, right? So clearly, start with self, tighten that up. I clearly get your reason why, redefine that, whatever that mission and purpose, and then move into your next level of delivering your service to your customer. I hope that I answered your question.
Yeah, sure. And from a leadership perspective, of course, you better believe it yourself before you try to lead a team too.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the business owners we've talked to, it's become more like a one-on-one kind of venting session, because it's, in some cases, being a founder can be a very lonely enterprise.
Yes.
And I think that one of the things we've tried to accomplish on these calls is that we are all in this thing together.
Yeah.
And there are people who are experiencing some of the same things, may have direct insights that might be helpful, or might just lend an ear to say, look, like, I hear you. It's tough. The landscape has changed, and I think that some people are more willing than others to change with it.
Checking your temperature, in checking the temperature of your customer, you first need to check the temperature of yourself. And in that would then help you to determine what your real next moves are. Is it downsizing the offering to my clients, or if it's increasing, I have to increase. It's so hard to look at your staff in the eye and say, I can no longer have you. I can't afford you at this moment. So all of that's real. I literally as a business owner carried people because I didn't have the guts to let them go, and realizing that carrying them was also bringing a extra pressure to the businesses for the people that I could keep. Okay. It's like, wow, I scaled up, but now that contract is gone. Here I am still trying to hold on. That's no longer part of my business model. I started out providing food for schools. School closed down. So I got to pivot, and that happens, right? And it's hard when it comes out of the blue, when it doesn't happen. It's like, wow, I didn't plan for this. But if you do not stop and ask yourself, what is the best thing for me to do now, and then move? If you just keep running down the street, you might be running down the wrong street. So you have to self-analyze and then structure what's the best decision, because you have to be the best business person for yourself before you can do that for your customer.
Yes, and part of that is truly understanding what kind of machine you're running. I think that cash flow analyses tend to be one of the more popular things that we do in the center, because really before we do anything else, the question is we're so focused on the individual and supporting entrepreneurs and small business owners. We want to make sure that everyone's not running themselves into the ground.
Right. That
it's got to be worth it to you. And love of the game might get you into this, but love of the game can't carry you through. And I think that making sure that people are cash flow positive. My colleague Mike Hernandez is on the call. Actually, has built some pretty cool programs with our students about even just recipe predictors. So plugging in a recipe at the wholesale quantities and spitting out what a cost of goods looks like for packaged goods producers, and even it can be applied to other things too. Everyone has been forced to look themselves in the mirror and say, "Am I up for this?" Because in some ways, this is the greatest time to fail. Yeah. I was a business owner until all this stuff happened, and then I was no longer a business owner. But if that doesn't sit well with you and you have the guts, to use your word, to go after it, I do think that there's incredible opportunity on the other side. We have to get there, and we have to take it day by day.
Yeah. And again, you're not by yourself. Like, your center is an amazing center, and there's so many other ones. So I also tell my clients, stop trying to be Batman, because truly he had a support system too, Truthfully, yeah, he had a support system too, because we have to understand that the resources are here, but you have to know what you want. You have to ask for what you want, and you have to apply the information once you receive it. I have literally worked with people with their recipes, and I'm like, you've been giving your greens away. Like, what do you mean, Mr. Tate? I said, well, let's do the numbers. And if the numbers don't lie. And so now it's on you to say, well, now do I have the guts to charge that extra 75 cents? Or do I want to keep acting like that money doesn't add up? It does. And if you don't count your money, eventually you won't have any. It's going to go. It's going to disappear. Just like if you don't check the temperature of your customers, this is the time to really tighten up those relationships. Know your customer's reason why they chose you, and ask that customer for that referral. Hey, do you have a sister? Do you have a girlfriend? How can I reach them? Utilize your text messaging opportunities, not just your emails. Identify not just when your person has a birthday that you want to say happy birthday. You want to basically say thank you. And you want to say thank you to that customer within that first 60 to 24 hours. I want to get my thank you to that customer before they forget or think about somebody else.
So you mentioned taking the temperature of your customers. How do people do that? What do you think is most effective? Is it to cast a wide net and say that I got 100 people to fill out this survey and 43.5% of them said this? Or would you advocate for finding some more key super fans and having direct outreach to them and picking their brain?
Okay. Your early adopters, your core group, you might be trying to shoot for 100 people, but if I can get 10 that I know why they come to my business, and then I can get that 10 to help me identify 10 more that will come to my business for the same reason or similar reasons, then that's, for me, is more valuable time used than me cashing that net out for that 100. Because I might get that 100, that might be 50 people that would never stay past the first buy. I'd rather identify the relationship. And then we used to have this clothing store, and I don't know if I should use it because they're not long around, but an educated consumer is their best customer. I truly remember that from a child. I want my customer to understand what's unique. When I provided the food to the schools, there was a unique package. I knew I needed to have 2 vegetables because everyone else was doing 1. When I did upscale catering, I knew that they wanted to see my staff in a crisp white shirt and gloves on. And so I had to clearly know my customers so that I'm making sure I'm delivering at the highest level that the customer expects.
Yeah, and I think what better time to reach out to those folks? I think that, again, you can't create all this stuff from scratch right now oftentimes, but if you have a list of customers, yes, and if you have any way of ranking them, whether it's number of transactions, whether it is highest check the average check for them, if it is, people that have visited you since this all began most often, or if they've increased or whatever, I think that the personal touches are going a long way. You're starting to hear about the restaurants who, oh, I couldn't believe it. I got the meal from them, and then there was a handwritten note saying, thank you so much. We appreciate it now more than ever. Yeah. That didn't cost you anything else. I mean, it's not the time. Yeah. But, for the half a cent it cost you in terms of stationery, that's what's being spoken about. And I think that, again, people are more accessible. They're more open than they usually would be, because we're all being forced to kind of scale back on our priorities. If you can get their attention now, I think it could pay a long dividend.
And this is the time when you get their attention to be authentic, to really care, care how they are doing, but also we were saying earlier, your customer relations is your new marketing strategy. So you want to be able to touch that customer where they and you mean to each other. I want to know what that customer means to me, but I want to understand what I mean to my customer, right? That relationship. And in doing that, I can also begin to then take my customers to mean even more by connecting them to what else I'm doing. So if I'm feeding first responders, let my customers know that their meal is helping, or their service of their paying that price is helping me to do more to the customer. If I'm an accountant, I'm saying because you continue to use my service, maybe I'm able to now help an individual because you're paying this little bit, you're paying this price. I'm able to now help someone else. So begin to put your messaging that your customers is already bought into because they're your core customers. Put that message into your marketing and connect your customer and your marketing strategy to continue to reach new customers. Because if I'm able to say, because of this meal, I'm able to feed one more, that make you want to actually buy one more meal. But if I don't tell you what I'm doing as a business owner to pull more people through this, you won't know. So I want to know what you're doing, but I also want you as my customer to know what I'm doing. And that way we on the same hand, back and forth, both of us need to know what each side is doing. I'm caring about you, but I want you to also care about me. And then we can decide to do something together that I couldn't do by myself and you couldn't do. And now we can actually connect and make impact on top of whatever the reason why you started to buy my food.
Yeah. And I think that in some ways, yes, the food is extremely important. If we stick to that industry for a second, the food is extremely important, no doubt. You probably wouldn't have gotten this far if you weren't making good food. But in some ways, it's everything else that is starting to distinguish. It's the messaging, it's the customer experience. To your point earlier about educated consumers, if you can get people to really understand what you're doing and why, then they become lifelong customers and they tell their friends. Yeah. So we have a question here.
Oh, good.
What are some of the big picture policy things that you think could be helpful to support DC businesses and the food businesses you work with right now?
Oh, good. That's a good question. And I think I got a feel. I didn't see where that come from, but I think I got an idea. So
small town.
the first thing is the information flow. I'm loving the way that our city is putting the information. I love what Ram W is doing and the other government offices are doing to get information out there, because there's a fear factor that happens when you don't know and you don't know where to go and get the information. So that's the first thing. As a business owner, please connect to the government agencies that are trying to figure this out also, because they don't know. We're all trying to figure it out. And so if you're connected, you're then able to get on some of these Zooms and ask questions that directly relates to you, because they don't know all of the answers. So if you're not connected, and you won't get your answers answered, but there might be someone else who needs the same answer. And so that's the first thing. As a business owner, connect to the resources. Government agencies, please continue to repeat. And then have, for instance, like this call is going to be recorded. Let people know where these recordings of these conversations that we had 3 weeks are, because there's some people 3 weeks ago who are still back there, and I don't know how to reopen, don't know where to go to identify the answers. And then second, I hope I'm getting the second part done, and this is the most important. Be able to be firm with your answers. If I'm supposed to have 6 feet, then, really monitor that 6 feet is happening. Because if people are not going to be checked as we make sure our food is safe, when you put that food inside you, if it's not safe, it is not safe. If that environment is not safe, the environment is not safe. So even though we spend all this time formulating strategies, if no one is making sure the implementation and the monitoring of these new procedures are being structured and actually applied to, then we're going to fall back into problems. Because again, if I don't respect the fact that I'm supposed to have distance and I wind up letting someone come too close, or I wind up not having my mask on, then even though you took the time to get the information, if I'm not being monitored, then I'm applying this information, then it doesn't work. So I'm hoping that I'm saying that right.
Yeah, and I think honestly that one of the most encouraging things that I've seen and heard throughout this whole process is the openness to make things better. We had Director Whitfield on from DSLBD a few weeks ago, and on some of the phone calls with she and her team, it was an open question. How can things improve? What barriers did we have towards what we want to have in our city before? And have any of those barriers been removed?
Right.
Is this a way that we can streamline and maybe eliminate some things that aren't working and add things that might work or something along those lines? I think that, getting everyone across all industries and sectors and say, you know what, let's all think of a better way to do this. It needed to take something like this to happen. So if there's any kind of silver lining, the hope is that, we can all come together and have a stronger ecosystem for businesses in the future. And I think that the willingness to have that conversation, I find encouraging.
We have to monitor, because some people still don't believe, like, oh no. So I know there was some more questions. I want to make sure I keep my answers kind of short and just so.
Sure. Next question here is from Virginia Marie, and she says, do you have any advice for folks who might not have had the strongest relationships with the customer base before and now are playing catch up? So assuming that you don't have those super fans you can call on for the moment, how do you go from, sitting back and just kind of relying on people to come to you and turning it around into you're actually seeking their input in a way that's meaningful?
Don't sit back and rely on them coming to you. You know your customer segment well enough to go out and to find them. Where do they go to eat? Where do they go to play ball? Where do they walk? And begin to have messages that attract them. Don't sit around waiting for them to find you. Use your Google Analytics, identify where they go, truly understand what is your unique proposition that you're offering and who are the standard customers of that market, wherever it is. If I'm doing barbecue, someone who loves Italian might not really, but I need to focus on where people are loving barbecue, where they're going, and what language and all of that. So truly dive into your customer segment and dominate it.
The other thing that I would suggest is, I was thinking about Domino's campaign from a couple years ago. They basically came out and said, look, our pizza wasn't very good. We're going to fix that. And here's what we're going to do, and blah, blah, blah. I think with everything else swirling around, it's totally legitimate to even approach customers with the lead in to say, look, we realize we haven't been very forward with our customers in the past. Now more than ever, we would love to know what you want to see from us so that we can continue to meet your needs in a way that's valuable. I think that the door's open to that.
Yep, honest communication. People want honesty. When you said pizza, but when Papa John said it's not about the crust, but it's about the core ingredients, honesty and reach your client. So let's go to your next question, because we got a few questions. I want to make sure I keep
we do. So this one's from Alfred, and he says they basically have a food ordering platform for restaurants and groceries. And the basic crux is, how do you approach potential new clients despite everything that's happening around them? I mean, in some ways, for B2B clients, it's an extremely tough marketplace because nobody really wants to get pitched right now. But if they're truly solving a problem for that business,
right,
how would you recommend approaching his potential clients who are restaurants and grocery stores?
Okay. See, he has a solution to a problem that is hitting restaurants and grocery stores. And so he needs to make those relationships. He needs to be connected to Northeast Eats. He needs to be connected to Inspire, DMV Black Restaurant Week. He needs to be connected to larger organizations, RAMW, larger organizations that can introduce him to XYZ. Just like when we were on the playground, the cool guy can literally say, come over here, let me introduce you. When that cool guy introduces you, you're already cool. And if you deliver on that basketball court by making that shot, so not only does he have to make sure his product really delivers, he needs to now get to with people who have influence so that he can successfully introduce his service and his business to people who need him more than ever before. Because A lot of people now are hearing all this noise. He needs someone to dampen that noise and say, this product works.
Yeah. And what I always advocate too, and I was actually on a call with one of our students this morning talking about gatekeepers, right? Yeah. You can either have 100 conversations or you can have one conversation that's going to get to the right 100 people.
That's right.
And I think that your suggestions about RAMW and D&D Black Restaurant Week and others, try to figure out who are the gatekeepers in the field. Yep. Who has the best reputation? How can you get to them? How can you win them over? Because then you have what Seth Godin calls, and this is terrible in a pandemic, but the sneezers, right? The people who are going to spread your ideas in a way.
Because see, you know your idea, but unfortunately, other people might know your concept, but it got so much going on right now. It would really behoove you to have, like you said, some early adopters say how good your product is as part of your strategy to get more customers.
Yep. All right, another quick question here, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Alfred. By the way, Tate, before we go much further, how can people connect with you if they want to continue the conversation after the call?
Call you. Let me stop. Real easy to get to. You can go to Tate.DMV right on Instagram. I'm Inspire. Tate.DMV. I'm also Inspired DMV. So you can literally just really reach out to me. I'm easy to get in contact with. I guess right now the easiest thing, just go to my Instagram and send me a message.
Awesome, thank you. So this one comes from Carell. He says that his business is mostly mainstream revenue is office related coffee, and so haven't received any orders, of course. How do you see that playing out? Maybe a little bit broader question for those that were more dependent upon office density in order to have their products sold in the market. Do you have any general suggestions for that? Please
excuse me. Can you give me the core question one more time? I don't see it in front
of me. He has not received. So main line of business is office coffee. So providing coffee to different companies on you go to the coffee machine. It's not just a Keurig anymore. It's much better coffee options and everything else. But as a line of revenue coming directly related to people being in the office, how do you suggest that someone in this space might pivot to something different?
That's an individual that I really want to talk to, because I'm gonna give it to you, right? That cup of coffee, it means so much, and that segment has changed in the last, not just prior to March, but that cup, if he can make that cup not only taste good, but mean something more than just me having access to it, because the whole office model is totally changed. So he's not only now she is not only in a dilemma of understanding what this new office model will be once it open back up, but he has to hit that market with a meaning that is beyond with the taste of the coffee and the ease of the coffee. So you're going to have to really develop tight relationships with those office managers, but your core business model I believe, has to have a meaning that connects the whole coffee experience to a meaning that makes a person feel not only good.
Well, I would second that. I would also say that right now, if you look at what's happening, a lot of the main fast casual coffee-driven businesses. I mean, Starbucks closed 400 stores last week. You had Au Ban Pan file for bankruptcy. You had Le Pain Quotidien file for bankruptcy. Some of these bigger players in the space where you might look down K Street and see 2 or 3 of them, blink, because they might not be there in a little while.
Yep.
So maybe, and I'm just guessing here, but there might be an option to exploit, even with reduced occupancy for office buildings. People are still going to need their coffee. Believe me, I'm one of them.
Yep.
And I'm tired of drinking what I make because it doesn't taste very good. So I think that there could be something there, Carell. But I'm happy to talk to you more about that.
You have a unique opportunity. And so I want to let people know, you can email me at inspiredmv@gmail. You can also call me directly if you want to at 240-514-4820. 4820. So I'm going to say it again, or easiest, hit on Instagram, tate.dmv.
240-514-4820.
Yep. And again, just call you. I mean, all right, you send it out. I really appreciate that.
Awesome. So another question here from George Economy is, with reduced dining space requirements, the new norm for the foreseeable future, restaurant owners will need to find ways to increase prices, find new source of revenue, and reduce expenses. What do you think are some specific creative approaches you're seeing in the DC marketplace?
Yeah, I'm loving what my partner AJ is doing around the whole beverage experience. She's literally doing cocktail events where people are online, and it's creating more meaning to the restaurant that she's connected to. I'm seeing people, small places like Cultural Cafe 2, have meals connected to causes. I'm seeing catering companies also connecting meals to senior citizens, et cetera. And so along with your foot traffic, along with your customers who are going to come inside, take some time, bring your core chefs from behind that kitchen and let your chef prepare foods that make that core customer understand why you're going to do a home delivery or you're going to come and do a curbside. Create a stronger desire for the product that you are serving to your customers. And you have a talented chef. If you don't need to get one, you have a talented chef. Bring that chef out and let the world know who she or he is. And you can do that virtually. You can do that virtually.
Yeah. I attended an event on Thursday that I thought was pretty cool, George. It was a virtual beer tasting by the DC Brewers Guild. And they did a really cool thing where they've had all the different breweries come in, and you could prepay, contactless, all the rest, and pick up a 6-pack of beer that represented 6 different breweries. And then you had the people who made the beer come on and describe what they had done. But they also paired that with a historian who came in and was talking all about brewing history in the district and all the rest. I've been on a lot of Zoom calls, and I've hosted a bunch at this point. This was the most fun, for sure.
It made you feel good too, didn't it?
It made me feel good, and it felt almost social. So I think that people are starting to think in that space. Sticking to the brewers for a second, and some of the distillers and everybody else. They had the option of delivering all along, but it didn't make sense for them.
Yeah.
Because it was a pain, and it's a logistical nightmare, and it's all these things they didn't really want to do. Yeah. Guess what? They stuck it up and they figured it out, and now they have another revenue stream. I mean, it went literally from zero to something. Now, is that enough to sustain them long term? I don't know. But do they now have another revenue stream that they can potentially exploit if push comes to shove all over again? Maybe. I think that kind of stuff is interesting.
Chef Key. Chef Key is a young chef. He's a veteran. He's doing some feeding of talking. He's doing some cooking meals on Sunday. You can check him out. He's a part of that Think DC, Creative DC, but he's also a graduate of 202 Creates. And so again, he's identified resources. I've been working with him for a minute, not a while, but a minute. And so he's utilizing the relationships, and he's also took time out, and he took food down to the protesters, making sure that they had food. But so he's doing more than waiting for someone to call him for a catering job. He's saying, how does he take his skills and his mission to the community? And in doing that, he stays relevant, and his customers see that he's relevant, and he generates more business that has meaning. So Chef, you can follow him, Chef Key. And you can go to my page and you'll see him also on my page.
Chef K-E-Y?
Yes.
Cool.
K-I,
excuse me.
Yeah.
There was also a request that if you could share the links to AJ's cocktail event. There's been a request for that.
It's on my page. Yeah, it's on my page.
Okay.
She's an amazing mixologist. She's an amazing mixologist.
So let me ask this. I'm going to make an assumption right now, and I don't know if it's a good thing to do that or not.
Go ahead. We're friends.
6 months ago, would you have been able to have a conversation like this and say, yeah, it's all on my page? Check me out here on Instagram. It's all there.
No.
Everything we've talked about is you can find me and it's easy to execute.
It's the team. Like I gave honor to your team you have, Ryan, it's the team.
Yep.
And so I have a unique person on my team who says, Tate, again, you're doing all of this, slow up. This is a segment that you need to focus on because this is one way people are going to not only find you, but they're going to follow you and they're going to support you. And so all of my clients, I do the exact same thing. We do an analysis on your social media. You don't have to be on every platform, but you need to find where people that you represent are on, and you need to get part of that. And I'm glad you said that, bro, because that's a part of understanding your customers, where they meet, how they communicate, and how they find value in you.
Yep. No, I agree completely. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but
it's all good. It's all good. Like I said, you know, we're friends. You can do that.
I'm definitely the same way. So it's 6 o'clock. We do try to keep these to an hour, even though it has been a great conversation. Thank you, Furard Tate, for your insights and for doing what you do at all times of every year, but especially during this time of this year. I know that you've been an incredible resource for countless businesses, and you're one of those people that I'd like to keep in regular touch with because you're always a boost of energy, but you also have a real pulse on what's going on. And I think that, you know, at the end, I've said this at the end of every call, when this is all over, I think that all of us that are working directly with businesses need to get together for a real happy hour or something, and drinks are on me. So,
well, if I may ask, those persons who got any information, let's not let this be the first time or the last time we interact. So again, please follow me, ask me questions. You can Instagram me, but also I want to send a personal thank out to you and your team. We have to begin to support each other with something as small as thank you. It was a benefit for this platform. And so from my heart, I thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. And I hope that the information resonates in us finding the next great thing to do and that we are motivated to do it now. So thank you so much.
Amen. I'll look forward to our next conversation and executing all the many ideas we have and how we can work together. So Chef Tate, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
For those of you, don't forget the radio show, which is WL.
100%.
Yeah, WL every Wednesday at 1450, and it's at 10 o'clock. But I'll send that to you if you don't mind sending that out.
Awesome. We will do that. We'll send that out with a follow-up. If by chance this was your first time joining us on this Yoga Center happy hour, we do try to do this every week or so, but the best way to stay in touch to everything we're doing, when the student project portals open, when we have calls for interns, when we have different events coming up, Rachel has kindly just put a link into the chat there. And so please sign up for the newsletter. At this point, we have close to 800 businesses on it, and about 40% of them open it when we send it. So I think someone's finding value in it somewhere. And that's totally Rachel's doing. So thank you for that. Thank you all for joining us. We will continue to host these as long as people want us to have them. So if you have an idea about what content might be coming up, we're extremely excited to work more closely with DSLBD and the reopening of their office hours coming up. So we will work on the relationship between one-on-one consultations with their office hours versus potential breakout rooms based by topic using this venue. We've been in touch with Kate Marion and her team a lot about that since the last call we had. And George Economy and others who are on the call have volunteered to serve as mentors, which I think is going to be outstanding. So stay tuned to all that. The best way to do that, once again, is to just sign up for that newsletter. It never comes more than once a week. And because we're transitioning slowly into this summer now, it'll probably be about every other week and perhaps every month or so back to normal soon enough. So thank you all very much. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay positive, and we'll look forward to seeing all of you soon. Cheers.